Alright guys, welcome back to Game and Compute. Welcome back to the podcast. Here we talk about finances and income and jobs and career, a bit about education, hobbies, side hustles. Today I want to talk about a story that I heard that was kind of finance related, kind of social and finance related. So you guys can tell me what you think on the different takes and different directions that this could go. So I want you to think about your own life, your own situations, your own social settings. Think about topics like judgment, topics like venting, like when you're like venting to people about like a stressful situation. Think about topics like lending money versus being charitable, or giving money versus spotting somebody, or being generous versus, maybe if somebody's being manipulative towards you or using you, or you feel like they're trying to like get over on your good nature, or just creating an awkward setting where they know that people have to kind of give in to them, right? So think about those types of situations. Maybe you've been through some of them, maybe you've been through all of them, maybe you've done all of them, maybe you've experienced or witnessed some or all of them. Think about your own life, right? And then I want to talk about this story that Tarantino posted on their YouTube channel. Now, I try not to be negative of other people's content. I don't know what's up with my voice. I'm drinking a LaCroix. I try not to be negative of other people's content. I like Taco Tarantino's stories. They're very well put together. Taco, when I first started engaging with their content, I identified, I believe, as a lesbian female. I'm not sure of gender, sexual identity at the moment, because I'm popping back into their content after like a couple years of not really being super engaged, and there was no reason why I fell off of engagement. Just naturally, I just kind of don't always 100% tune into the same things all the time. Like I switch it up sometimes, and then there's some people that I just kind of don't go back to or whatever, or maybe they change their channel into something else. I think that's what happened with Tacos, that I was subscribed, and then their channel changed to something else, and then because they used to post more like sexual, it was kind of like sexual LGBT content. And then now this channel is kind of more just like lengthier stories that are just interesting stories that aren't necessarily always like about like their sex life kind of topics. But I mean, I liked all the content I came across before anyways. So I tuned back in just because I was like, I'm taking some days off. So I just kind of wanted to like go back to some familiar fun stuff, see who's been doing what online. And I came back across Taco. So TACO in capital letters, I believe spelled with spaces in between. And then this story that they were telling. So spoiler, if you want to listen to it yourself, it's about an hour 19 minutes. It's called I gotta look through my history. Something Gremlin. Wow, I can't find it. My Wi-Fi. This Wi-Fi is gonna be the end of me. Well, I don't know, because I don't have the Wi-Fi right now, but Yeah, in this part of my room, I don't have good reception at all. I'm like, it's at the almost furthest corner away I can be from Wi-Fi. Anyways. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired today. So story goes, Taco went with two friends who were sisters and the fourth person from Georgia on a trip to Miami. And initially they had all, Taco and the other two sisters had planned this trip. They'd been putting all the plans into the works as far as like the flight, like, the sisters took care of the lodging and the transportation, and then they kind of decided where they were going to go while they were in Miami. So, mind you, there are 4 people total. Taco's the one telling this story, and 2 of the other people are sisters. So they all arrive at the airport, all the 4 of them. This fourth person only has $200 to be able to pay for their ticket on the spot. Mind you, the rest of the 3 already paid for their tickets in advance. This other fourth person knew about them paying and mentioned that they didn't have the money at that time when everyone else was paying, and they figured they would only have $200, meaning they couldn't afford it at all, but still shows up at the airport with the bag packed ready to go on this trip, not even with the ticket in hand, and, ask the others to pitch in so that they can get a ticket for their flight. So they mentioned they pitched in, everybody pitched in between $40 to $80 each. So at minimum, they were paying $120 total extra. At maximum, they're paying $240 extra dollars. So somewhere between $120 and $240 extra dollars to pay for somebody who couldn't afford their ticket. It sounds like there wasn't like a major conversation before this trip of, hey, I don't really have the money or the funds, but if you guys spot me, I'll get you back later, or just send me like a Venmo invoice kind of thing, and I'll pay you back. It didn't seem like there was any kind of situation like that, right? As far as the explanation that Taco's giving. So they get on the Delta flight, they take the flight to Miami, they get to an Airbnb. This person's complaining, this fourth person is complaining. Why did you get an Airbnb? Why didn't you get like a nice like 5-star hotel or nice hotel where there would be like a lobby and breakfast in the lobby and things like that? Why didn't you do that? Like that would have been nicer. Like this is kind of like not as upscale, kind of complaining, making people feel bad. And then they all get dressed to go out, and they're going to a hookah lounge. And so they all, I guess the sisters had rented a 2-door Mercedes coupe. And, of course, that fourth person is complaining. Mind you, they didn't pitch in for the Airbnb. They didn't pitch in for the Mercedes. They get to the hookah lounge. It's a $15 cover. They only had $10 on them and mentioned, can somebody pay for my extra $5? So Taco pays the $5. They sit down in the lounge. Taco gets their own hookah. The sisters get their own hookah between the 2 of them. They're sharing. And the sisters buy 4 shots, one Hennessy shot for every one of them, including that fourth person, right? Later on, Taco buys 4 shots. I don't remember if it was Hennessy shots or just any kind of shots, right? So Taco buys shots for all 4 of them, right? Then they noticed that the fourth person, after a long time, when everyone's like there and jamming to the music and getting a little buzz and having a good time and smoking the hookah and just kind of chilling and like relaxing, talking to their friends and stuff, they all kind of noticed like why is she sitting there, and this fourth person, why she's sitting there and not really engaging, seeming like she's not having fun. She's not like seeming like she's enjoying herself. And so they ask her, outright, like, what's going on? Like, why are you seeming upset? Like, and then she's just like, well, you guys are acting weird, like, why didn't you offer to buy me anything? And they were all kind of like, well, you didn't ask, you never asked us to buy you anything. All you mentioned was the cover fee. And then I guess at the hookah lounge, this fourth person kept ordering water with lemon. So other than the 2 different shots that they got offered, they didn't really have any other drinks or snacks or hookah or anything. So the 2 sisters start sharing the hookah. I think they get her a drink or something, and Taco has their own drink. Eventually they leave the hookah lounge. They, the next morning they wake up, they go to like a breakfast or brunch, wherever they go first in the morning. The sisters buy 2 pitchers for the whole table, 2 pitchers of mimosas, and Taco gets French toast to eat. I don't know what the sisters got, but they got food, and they were asking the fourth person, do you want something to eat? And that person's like, no, I'll just have drinks. Mind you, all they had the whole trip so far was the Delta flight. They had like whatever crackers or peanut snacks. Then, that night at the hookah lounge, they just had like those 2 shots and maybe some other alcohol, but 2 shots, and then they're starting their morning with mimosas. So they haven't had anything but mostly alcohol by this point. And they haven't paid but $200 for their own ticket, $200 of their own ticket, and $10 to get into a place, to the hookah lounge. They basically were at the breakfast, were like kind of making people feel like sorry for them a little bit, like, oh, like just kind of like people begging them to like let them buy her a meal, because they're like, you can't just have all this alcohol, it's Miami, it's hot, like you're in the heat a lot, like it's the morning, you haven't had any food since you left before the Delta flight the day before, so this is like 24 hours almost without having like a full meal by this point. They still got that whole day left. And so that person says, no, don't buy me anything. And then finally is just like, fine, I'll order, a pancake and 3 turkey bacon strips. Eats the meal. They all go, when they're done eating, they go up to pay. This fourth person goes in front of these other 3 friends of theirs, pays for, no, doesn't pay for anything, goes to the front of those 3 friends at the register, at the cashier up front, and tells the cashier, can you take my pancakes and 3 turkey bacon strips off of the bill, because it wasn't good. It wasn't, like, it didn't taste good. Mind you, they ate the whole thing. And so eventually, they didn't take it off the bill. Eventually, the sisters agree, after Taco mentions, look, you've been rude this whole time. You haven't been nice this whole time. People are going out of their way for you. You can't even afford to, like, do this trip, and, everyone's paying for you. which maybe that's fine, but it's like you're not even like being like nice, like you're being like disrespectful, rude. And that person's comment to that was, I'm grown, I can take care of myself. So yeah, and then there's 20 minutes more to that story. But that was kind of the first place I stopped, and then I did go back and listen to the whole rest of it. But basically, it was just a little bit more drama after that, with them posting some stuff online that was very one-sided. That fourth person posted on Instagram something along the lines of how Taco and those two friends were just like not getting like a lot of upscale stuff, and they weren't having a good time, and they were making it awkward. But I don't really know, like, what the heck, I don't really know. So I think about it, and I think about, where are the lines when it comes to, like, kind of like judgment with people with their financial situations, right? So we all have friends that, maybe we're a little bit in a better financial position than some of our friends, and then we all have friends where they're better in financial positions than we may be. That's normal. It's normal to know like a spectrum of people, and then there's probably the people that go out and do stuff that's so expensive that you kind of don't really like go out with them too much, and then there might be the people that they really don't have any money, so it's really hard to really invite them out to do stuff unless you're gonna pay. And so it can be hard to know, just based on that, like what's okay, what's okay to accept from people if they're offering and accepting their generosity, and what's okay to offer to somebody else, how much is too much to offer, how little is like being kind of like stingy, is it okay to be stingy, or greedy, or not giving, is it an obligation to give to people who can't afford to do things for themselves when they knowing, like this person in the story example, when they knowingly, they're very aware that they have about $210 total that they're gonna spend, and it doesn't seem like they spent more than $210, and minus the plane ticket that they already couldn't afford, they didn't seem to spend more than $10 in like a almost 3-day period. So it's kind of like that is a little odd to be going out of town. It's one thing if you're broke and this is kind of how I see it. It's one thing if you're kind of broke and you're going on a trip because of like school, or you have an educational opportunity, or you have like a job opportunity, and maybe you're taking a risk a little bit with not really a lot of money, but it's like if you get it, it would be a better opportunity. To me, that makes a little more sense than like, hey, let me go fly like on a boozy kind of trip with my friends to like smoke hookah and like cruise around town, and to smoke hookah, to cruise around town, and to go out drinking, go out clubbing. It's kind of like you can do that in your own city, and also you can not have to spend that much money. If you don't have the money to spend, maybe that's not the best use of it necessarily. And then to be putting people down that are already paying for everything, that's also like really weird. So I don't know what you guys think of that story. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. Just the dynamics of what's going on. I mean, I feel for people who have dealt with those kind of things. I've dealt with similar things with people. It's so on Taco's channel, it's called Super Gremlin. That's the name of that video title, and it's I find it interesting. It's a lot of food for thought. The kind of message I got out of it when I thought through it more and thought through people I'd been angry at because I felt like they were kind of using me for me giving them rides all over town, or like paying for meals for them, and kind of like tricking me or manipulating me or lying to me to like take them places, I kind of think about it like, okay, I do have a luxury of having a car. It's not a luxurious car, but I have one. I have a job and I have money in the bank to be able to do this. Even though at that time I wouldn't have maybe preferred to spend my money on these other people. It was like during the economy crash near like 2008, and so I wasn't really like in the space to really be like really helping that much. But at the same time, it's like I was able to be generous. But I did notice that I was grumpy all the time about it and bitter, and it was noticeable to them because before one of the last times I saw those people, they got a little upset with me and were kind of telling me like, oh, you're always in a bad mood and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like they were either oblivious to or didn't notice how much of a strain and a burden it was putting on my wallet, my energy, my time, my freedom on the weekends and stuff. It was like, I don't really want to be driving you back and forth between Orange County and LA like multiple times in a week. I could have just said that. I didn't say that. I went through like over a year of doing that, and was glad to move to San Diego when I was starting a program out there for school that led me to move. And one of the things I remember thinking was like, thank God I don't have to help these people anymore, because they were kind of leeches onto me, and I didn't really have it. I wasn't like rolling in money or anything. Like I was tutoring like maybe 4 or 5 hours a night at most, not even every single night of the week, and I was getting paid $20 an hour and with no benefits, no sick days, and that didn't count the time it took, all the driving and gas it took to get to and from where I was going, like 35 miles or so across LA, one direction. To me that was like a lot, and I was struggling and I was studying and I was doing like grad school applications and all kinds of stuff. So it was a struggle. But I did realize today, I was like, I can be angry at those people, but then again, I said yes, and I could have said no, and the interesting thing in my scenario was that there were other people around that were, more, well off than I was. It was through like a church situation. So these people were linked with the same church I was linked with. And there were other people who kind of knew that these people didn't like have rides or anything. And so, I offered to take it on, but other people kind of were like interacting with the same people, and they were kind of like having a bad impression of those people because of how those people were. They were like lying to everybody, manipulating everybody into all kinds of stuff, and they just weren't very truthful about a lot of things. I remember one situation where one of them was braiding my sister's hair, and they came up with this explanation that I think my mom paid them like $100 to do it or something, and then they came up with an explanation by the next day saying, oh, they went over to their friend's house and their friend stole the money, and so they wanted me to like tell my mom that, so that thinking that my mom was gonna like give them more money again. But it's like, no, like like, what are you doing? Like people could kind of see through it. They would do stuff like that where it's like you question like, did they even lose the money or what? So things like that where I think about like judgment of like a person's financial situation, kind of venting, like I was just saying, like you get angry, you want to vent about the situation, but like, is it okay? Like whenever I'm venting about something, I do kind of feel a little bit bad about it in a way sometimes. Like the line that I try to draw for myself is like, I can talk about my feelings, my experiences with the other people. I try not to name people. And I try to talk about the behavior that they were doing that was upsetting me and my emotions involved with it. Not so much just like talking crap about their character and stuff, but it's really hard to do. I mean, even if with the explanation that I just gave with my own scenario that I've experienced is like, it's kind of hard to be like honest about situations, and then just be like, I'm not trying to put people on blast, but it's like, you know, it's like, it's my life too, it's my story too. So it's kind of like, in a way, you can be like a victim in those situations. But then I was thinking about it more today too, when I was thinking like, yeah, it's not really completely like being a victim. Yeah, they're taking advantage, but in my scenario, I had options of so many people because it was a church related situation. I could have been like honest with some of the other people and not taking it on, or asked some other people to split the load, or told somebody that was kind of in charge at church, like, hey, I really can't do this. It's really kind of messing with my emotions. I'm getting like angry, irritated all the time. It's making me not want to like come here, because whenever I come here, I have to like give them rides all over the place too, and they kind of like expect me to like take them places, even if I'm like not trying to. They don't really ask, they just expect too much. And I didn't communicate any of this to anybody. I'm not saying like, yeah, that's like, it's my fault, I was in the wrong and they weren't in the wrong. I'm just saying like, I had a role in this too. I was saying yes, even if it was angering me. I was saying yes. I was saying, okay, yes, I'll take you places. Yes, I'll pick you up by this time. Yes, I'll get you there by that time. I was saying yes. I wasn't saying, I'm a little stressed out, I'm pretty worn out, I just don't have the money to do this, I just don't want to do it this week. I mean, nowadays I totally would say something more like that. And I don't think there's anything to feel guilty about, especially when it's like affecting you, because they even mentioned, they were like, one of the last days I saw them, they were like, yeah, whenever you give us rides, you're always like grumpy, and you're never like joking with us, and you're never like friendly with us. And I was just kind of like, yeah, because you guys are like driving me up the wall. But it was like, partially I was mad at them for how they were treating my other friends too. And but it's complex. It's a very complex situation when it comes to money, when it comes to friends and money, when it comes to community and helping out in your community and giving your money. It's a really hard thing to deal with, like relinquishing control of your money. I think that's hard. I think it can destroy friendships, or even family relationships, with like lending money, borrowing money. People can just be like manipulative, people can maybe not pay people back. It's easy to like blame people for being in their financial situation. A lot of times, honestly, the bills don't add up, right? A lot of times, just like what Dave Ramsey says, spending a lot of times is a behavioral and emotional issue more so. Like when you do the math, a lot of times for a lot of us, the math adds up. A lot of us are lucky that the math itself adds up. But how we actually do our spending habits, that is maybe what doesn't add up. And so finding a person finding themselves in a situation where there's like a lot of debt, they can't afford to do what they want, and then they realize there's kind people around them who are going to pay for stuff for them. Because it's awkward, if you go out to eat and somebody's always like every weekend, you go out with them every single weekend, and they're only ordering water, free water, and never paying for anything. It's like, okay, you knew we were going out to eat, so it's like, after a while you kind of want to like pay, but then it's like, I don't really want to pay because I'm going to be spending like $50 on like steak, or something like that. It's like, nowadays when you go out to eat, like, it's hard to pay for more than one person. But I don't really think it's like it's like easy. Like, it's not easy to talk about these topics. It's not easy to, keep from getting like angered about them, or and it's hard to bring it up in the moment too. Like, what do you do if you're at the airport and you got a friend who's there who doesn't have money for their ticket and you're like about to go. Like, what do you just leave them at the airport and just be like, sorry, we're getting on this flight, it's too bad you can't afford it? Or do you pitch in for them knowing that they're going on this trip and don't even have any money? I mean, like, it's like, it's a hard place to be in, on everybody's end, on the people's end that are paying, on the person's end that's like, not able to afford stuff. It's just kind of hard to know where it's like, where are the lines between like what's right, what's wrong, like what's manipulative, what's like appropriate, what's, the ego getting in the way of being like, yeah, like, like I need to protect my money and protect myself and not be too giving and like, and like, or put somebody in their place when they're being disrespectful when I'm paying for their stuff, like the ego kind of gets involved, right? And it's hard to not have that too involved with things. But I think the thing I liked about the story is that it left a lot of space to kind of like relate to the story, and it left a lot of space to kind of think about things where it's like, okay, I can reflect on things from the past that might be similar and think about, how have I grown past that? How would I have addressed it now versus what did I address it like then? And I think that kind of method can really be applied to like spending in general, especially in like social situations when there's like social pressure, to spend. You don't want to do some weird, awkward thing, and like not spend the money. I used to have a friend that we would go to the movie theaters and they knew we were going to the movies and we would tell them they were going to the movies, but they didn't want to spend their money on movie tickets, and so they would just come in the line with us. We'd all go in, go to the bathroom, grab our seats, whatever, and then after a little while we're like, where's this person? Where'd they go? Like, and then sure enough, they were like outside the movie theater, and it could be like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at night, 10 p.m. at night, and they were just gonna like roam around outside the movie theater for like 2.5 hours till we got outside the movie theater and then took them home. And it's like, they would let people pay for their tickets, but they knew we were going to the movies and wouldn't bring their own money, and they knew we were going to the movies and wouldn't just like take themselves home. So it's kind of like they would go out and eat and do all this stuff, and then it was like everyone was paying for them all the time, but it was kind of like a little bit awkward. It was a little bit awkward, but it was kind of like, like, I don't know, like it was just, I don't know, like I used to talk to my parents about it, and some people were like, well, maybe it's because they're an only child, or they don't really get it, how people are trying to like be helpful and stuff. But I would always kind of hate it when people would kind of like assume that like people had money. Like, I never really liked it when people were like that, where people were like, oh, you seem like you might, like your family might have more money, and so they like expect that like your family's paying for stuff, or they expect that you're gonna give them a ride because you have a car, and it's like stuff like that where it's like, dude, you got all the way over here on the bus, like go home on the bus, like like sometimes I feel like it requires a conversation for it to be respectful and polite. That's kind of where I come from with it, is like, if I don't mind paying for stuff, or even if it's an emergency, you lost your wallet, your card's not working, like whatever, if it's on the spot like that, okay. But if you know for a fact that you don't have money and you're gonna go somewhere, like what if I don't have money for the both of us, what if I have $10 when I go into a movie theater expecting you're gonna pay your own money? It's like, it's not really fair to like spring it on somebody last second. I think it's appropriate to be like, look, I don't really have the money, but I really want to hang out with you, I really want to do this, I remember once when I went to Universal with some friends and I didn't really have the money and I really wanted to go, but it was like, they mentioned that they would pay for it. They got, I can't remember if they paid for everything. I feel like I paid for my ticket, but then when we got there, they wanted to get these day passes that were like $100 or something, and I think I didn't have the money for that. I was like, ooh, it's kind of steep, especially being like last second. And then one of my friends like got one for me or whatever. So I was, grateful and happy about it, but I was just like, damn, like, it's a little bit embarrassing, of course, but at the same time, it's like, that's pretty steep. And, I've been in situations with friends, either like going out to like a club or bar type situation, or like out to dinner, and then like people want to split the bill, and it's like, dude, like, I purposely ordered the $12.99 burger, and now I've got like a $65 bill, that I gotta pay because we're splitting all these other drinks that other people got, and like we're splitting it 5-6 ways, and it's like, I didn't even drink, like, it's like my bill would have been like under $20, and then now I'm paying like 3 times the amount that I was expecting to pay. So I don't really like that either. I don't like splitting bills with people who buy really expensive stuff. But it happens on occasion, but it's not very often. Like, usually, I'll ask for my own check. And so, sometimes it's like, okay, you gotta just get used to asking for your own check on stuff. But, or bring cash and pay in cash, and just make it known that you're only paying for your stuff. You're not splitting the bill. Because it's expensive. It can be expensive. Especially if, like, you found something on the menu that's under $20, and then everybody else is buying like 2 or 3 drinks and like meals that are like $25. That's gonna add up, when you're just sitting there with water or something, and then like a cheeseburger, and everybody else is getting like steaks and like shrimp stuff and like all sorts of like seafood things, and you're just like, nah, I didn't really want this. So it could be a little bit of pressure to be like, not really like you don't want to feel cheap or seem cheap, but it's like, I'm pretty tight on my budgets too. So it's like, when I go out and have fun, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm just like blowing my money. Like, I used to be like that, but not anymore. Like, I'm very conscious about what I do when I go out, and I'm like, this is how much I want to spend. I try not to go like past that, but I mean, there is a little bit of wiggle room, because sometimes you're having fun, you're just like, okay, like once in a while, maybe go over budget once in a while. If it's like once or twice a year or something, it's not really that big of a deal, I don't feel like. But if it's like every single weekend or once a month even, that's kind of a lot, in my opinion, for myself. But I like stories that kind of go through those types of topics where it's like, a different kind of setting, a different kind of, just like, there are cultural expectations, and I kind of like hearing how like a lot of us will be on the same page, right? We're all like listening to a story, and we're like, like that fourth person is like, they have no place to be like complaining and all that. But and I'm not like shitting on people. I'm not saying like, oh, Taco's got an ego, or like whatever. I'm not like speaking to that. I'm just saying like, I do, like, when I've had situations like that, I notice that's kind of where my ego comes in, where it's like, especially when somebody's being like rude to you, you want to vent about it. You want to like, even if you're not telling them to their face, and you have other friends who are kind of like, they know that this person's manipulating everybody and lying, and everybody's paying for all their stuff all the time. And, it's really hard to be like outside of that conversation and not be like wanting to like jump in the conversation and be like, oh yeah, they screwed me over in this way or that way too. They did this and that to me, just like spreading this extra information out there. It's, especially if you're like hurt by it, or like upset by it, or like you feel like they did you wrong, it's hard to not, chime into those conversations or like bring it up and vent about it to somebody. That's kind of something that I struggle with, knowing where is that appropriate. Is it ever okay to like talk about your emotions when it involves other people? Is it completely not okay? Does it need to be like a specific trusted person that you open up to about that it's just between you and them? Or can you tell like a group of your friends about it when they've all had those same experiences? Like, is it talking crap? Is it gossiping? I mean, I think it is talking crap and it is gossiping, but it's like, like, I don't know. Like, it's so complex, right? But yeah, I just wanted to record on that because I thought it was kind of like an interesting topic. I really like the stories. I'm definitely going to be going through more of the stories. And, we get our daily dose of sirens over here. I laugh, but I always hope people are going to be okay. I already know, like, they're going because it's an emergency. It's not really a joke, but I mean, there have been a lot of emergencies is basically, what I've noticed is that there are so many emergencies that almost every time I'm recording a podcast, it's 9:49 p.m. right now. Usually I'm recording closer to 4 or noon or in the morning, and there's almost always sirens. And so that's kind of scary to and there's probably plenty of them that I don't even like notice. I only really notice them when I'm recording. I don't know if I really like, or if it's like really loud and like wakes me up at night or something, but yeah, usually I'm not really too aware. I'm trying to make these a lot shorter, but it's hard for me because I like the topics, and so I'm gonna cut this one for now, but keep thinking about those topics. I mean, I think the reason why I like kind of trying to be, maybe not have people walk all over me, but trying to take like a tolerant approach and like a like maybe try to see where my ego's going with things, is because it kind of makes it a little easier for me to kind of deal with the stress of things. It's like I can take the blame off of somebody else and see like where I would have control over that situation. If I just say that I won't do it, then I don't have to deal with it anymore, right? So that's an option that I have to be willing to take. If I'm going to complain, I have to be willing to say, hey, like, what can get me out of this situation that's making me complain? I don't have to. I do feel like, in a way, obligated almost to feel committed towards people, especially when I've been in church settings, to be like helpful of people who are part of the church and stuff. But also it's like, if people are just like using you in this situation, and they're more concerned about why you're upset and mad, and they never even ask you like what you're going through or like what's going on, and just assume you should be happy with them all the time when they're running around just like hurting other people, a little bit, like they're kind of like upsetting other people and stuff too, not just me. It's like that gets to me too. So I don't know, sometimes I have more questions than answers. This is one of those episodes, but I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for listening.